Grady used to have a bumper sticker that was out for years that said, "If I'm hurt in an accident, take me to Grady." And then a lot of Atlantans would look at that and say, "That's absolutely true," and then, "When I'm better, get me the hell out of there." But it's a great trauma center. But what I've learned in the years of covering it at the newspaper, and also doing the research for the book, was that it's a great hospital in general. There are a lot of really good things that it does, and then some of the things it does are better than any other hospital in Atlanta. And one of them is in the area of neurosciences. If you're a stroke victim, if you are suspected of having a stroke, you or a loved one are suspected of having a stroke, let me tell you, get to Grady. It's probably the best place in the city to be there. So this is a story about one of those patients, and her name is Tracy Stedman. Tracy Stedman knew almost instantly that the procedure was a success. Hours earlier, she had suffered a stroke in her home outside of Atlanta. While she remained conscious, she couldn't move her right arm and had no feeling on the right side of her body. Thankfully, her husband knew the warning signs and called 911. After an evaluation in the ER, she was rushed to one of the neuroscience procedure rooms at Grady Memorial Hospital, where Dr. Raul Nogueira snaked a tiny catheter deep into the arteries of her brain. Nogueira, a world-class interventional neurologist from Brazil, recruited to practice at Grady by Emory University School of Medicine, asked Tracy, who was awake on the table, how she was doing. "I could move my arm and hand and wave it," she said. "I knew as soon as he got it." Nogueira had used what was just a few years earlier an investigational device, but now is the gold standard of care, to find and remove a stubborn blood clot in the brain that didn't respond to conventional blood thinners and other stroke therapies. Guided by live action detailed images of his patient's arteries displayed on a monitor in front of him, the physician pushed the device to the site of the obstruction and literally snatched the clot away, opening blood flow once again to the region of the brain that controls movement and other vital bodily functions. Not that long ago, a clot that could have been dissolved, a clot that couldn't be dissolved by targeted blood thinners and would have rendered Tracy at least partially paralyzed and in need of long-term physical rehabilitation if she was lucky enough to survive. Instead, 3 days after being admitted to the Grady ER, she was out of the hospital, physically fine, and unencumbered in a significant way. Like many other patients at the hospital, Tracy had no insurance to cover her care at Grady. She had been laid off about 18 months earlier from a human services job with the local YMCA, a good job that had provided full coverage for the 10 years she worked there. It was the longest she had been without a job or insurance, and the pressure she was experiencing around the same time, losing her house, declaring bankruptcy, separating from her husband, and dealing with the son who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, had clearly taken a toll. She was feeling stressed, but thought she could handle it. Besides, she said, without insurance, she really couldn't afford to go to the doctor. Tracy credits Grady's Neuroscience Center for not just saving her life, but helping her get recentered on things that really matter, such as reconciling with her husband and helping her son. Cardiovascular disease, and stroke in particular, is a chronic medical problem for African Americans and other minorities in the United States. The fact that African Americans die from stroke at overall rates significantly higher than whites has been well established for decades. But what is less known is that the staggering toll stroke takes on African Americans in their 40s and 50s, like Tracy Stedman. Blacks between the ages of 45 and 64 have a mortality rate from stroke that is 3 times what it is for whites. Moreover, many of those who survive are so disabled they cannot walk or require long-term care. Most poor and uninsured African American stroke victims don't have access to the gold standard of care that Tracy Stedman found at Grady. And even more problematic, the racial disparity of access and treatment for almost all other chronic debilitating conditions that afflict the poor and minority Americans is not limited to stroke. Indeed, the most damning indictment of America's $3 trillion healthcare system is that the marvelous strides it has made towards diagnosing and treating chronic diseases are not equally shared by all of its people.